Now we wait for YouTube on my tablet to catch up so I can tune in there. Here we go. Okay. Welcome to the Oregon Trail. As usual, I am here with my co-host, my mom.
Hiya.
Let's get started. About your adventure. You are living in the United States in the mid 1800s, the time of the Oregon Trail. In this book, you'll explore how the choices people made meant the difference between life and death. The events you'll experience happened to real people. Chapter 1 sets the scene. Then you choose which path to read. Follow the links at the bottom of each page as you read the stories. The decisions you make will change your outcome. After you finish one path, go back and read the others for new perspectives and more adventures. Use your device's back buttons or page navigation to jump back to your last choice. You choose the path you take through history.
Cool.
Chapter 1 On the Oregon Trail. The mid 1800s were a time of expansion and exploration for the United States. Americans spread out across North America. The promise of a new life called to many. They claimed land for farming and raising livestock. By the 1840s, thousands of people were packing their belongings into wagons and heading west. Most followed the 2,000-mile Oregon Trail, a trip that took most settlers 5 or 6 months to complete. Long wagon trains rumbled across the plains of present-day Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho, and Oregon. Other trails branched off from the Oregon Trail. They led to California, Utah, and other places. Oh, those casual other places. Not worth mentioning. Don't worry about them. Just other places.
Other places.
While some people headed west looking for land, others rushed to California to search for gold. On January 24th, 1848, James Marshall discovered gold at the sawmill he built for John Sutter on the bank of South Fork. For a second, I thought this was South Park, of the South Fork American River near Coloma, California.
That's down.
Yeah.
We live near there.
Yeah. Stories of the gold brought thousands of people to California who hoped to strike it rich for themselves. Life was hard on the Oregon Trail. Much of the trail cut through the grasslands of the Great Plains. Settlers were far from civilization. Diseases such as cholera and smallpox were deadly. Floods, storms, and droughts threatened travelers and their animals. River crossings were dangerous, and while many American Indian groups left the travelers alone, others were less welcoming. Some Indians stole settlers' animals. Others attacked or killed the travelers because they felt threatened. The dangers didn't stop the settlers, though. Most left from Independence, Missouri. They followed the trail across the plains. God, why can't I read? They passed landmarks such as Chimney Rock, Fort Laramie, Fort Bridger, Soda Springs, Fort Boise, and the Snake River along the way. I hope we don't encounter the last one. Those who made it to Oregon found fertile land for the taking. Could you survive the perils of the trail to make a new, better life? To brave the Oregon Trail with a young family, press here to guide a wagon train along the trail or to head for California during the gold rush. Which one should we do?
We live near Sutter.
Yeah.
What do you think we should do?
Gold rush?
Mm-hmm.
Gold rush. Oh crap, that took us straight to chapter 4.
We're gonna die anyway.
Yeah. On the California Trail. There's a fortune out there, says the old man with a toothless smile. You smile back, happy to have someone talk to you. Happy to have someone to talk to. It's the summer of 1849, and you're on your way to California. There's gold there. Like thousands of others, you're hoping to get your share. The old man, Samuel, rides with you as you follow the Oregon Trail. You're arriving at Fort Hall in eastern Oregon country. It's near the place where the California Trail splits off from the Oregon Trail. Samuel is riding a horse with only a few saddlebags for supplies. You are driving a team of oxen pulling a covered wagon. The wagon is stocked with supplies, from food to water to mining equipment. Oxen are slow but reliable. Trade those beasts for a horse at Fort Hall, suggests Samuel. The gold won't last forever. We'll be there in a month by horseback. Take you 3 times with that long wagon. It's tempting. You've driven this team of oxen all the way from your family farm in Kansas. They've done well so far following the Oregon Trail. They've taken you through storms, floods, across rivers, and even around a herd of buffalo. But they'll be even slower in mountain country. I'm not sure, you say. Taking the wagon is slower, but it's also safer. Nobody ever got rich by playing it safe. I'm riding ahead to the fort. I'll be there in a few days. You find me if you want to ride together. You munch on some dried apples and carrots as you watch him ride off. You carefully steer your wagon along deep ruts in the trail. Many have come this way before, and the ground is scarred with their tracks. To continue with your wagon, so should we continue with the wagon and supplies, or sell off the oxen, wagon, and supplies to travel by horseback?
I hope we're gonna die anyway.
We're gonna die anyway,
We're
yeah?
gonna die anyway. Keep the supplies. Might as well have something
Alright.
to bury ourselves in.
You'd love to be in California sooner, but you feel safe in the wagon. You're not ready to give that up. When you finally arrive at Fort Hall, you tell Samuel goodbye. Maybe I'll see you in California, you say. He laughs and assures you that by the time you reach California, he'll already be rich.
No, he'll be dead.
You set out from Fort Hall along the Snake River. The Oregon and California trail split where the Raft River meets the Snake. The emigrants headed for Oregon continue west, while you turn south. The trail takes you deep into the Rocky Mountains. The going is slow. As you approach a mountain pass, the trail narrows to barely more than the width of your wagon. Rain falls as you approach a steep, narrow section of the trail. You're not sure your oxen can handle the slick rock, but it's cold, wet, and the air is thin. Stopping here isn't going to make you or your animals any stronger, and you don't know how long the rain will last. Should we continue up the slick trail or pull aside and wait for the rain to pass?
Oh, you know me, I'm an idiot. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna die.
You can't stop every time a little rain falls. The rain could continue for days. The oxen are warm and in a rhythm. You'll keep going. You hold your breath as the trail narrows. A sharp drop lies just feet from the trail. One misstep and you'll be dead. But your sturdy oxen are well trained. They plod along, pulling the wagon over the bumpy trail. In a few hours, the worst is over. You made it. With the mountain pass behind you, you're headed back downhill. There are a few more parts of the trail that make you nervous, but you manage without any trouble. The days pass as you slowly move along the banks of the Humboldt River. You approach the part of the trail known as the 40-mile desert. You're stocked with supplies, including lots of water. That's a good thing because the desert is brutally hot. You try to travel at night when it's cooler and sleep during the day. Near the end of your desert journey, you spot another wagon. A man and a woman are waving their arms at you from atop it. They look like fellow emigrants, but you can't be sure. Should we see if the people need help or avoid them?
I'm stupid, you know this.
Gonna see if they need help?
Of course.
Good to see I come by it honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, you shout as you approach the couple. Thomas and Annie are newly married and headed west to look for gold, but they didn't bring enough water into the desert, and their mules died of thirst. Now their wagon is stranded. They're very glad to see you. We're almost out of water, says Annie. Can you help us? We don't have much to offer you, but we do have some information on a good spot to pan for gold. We'll be happy to share it with you. Your supplies are stretched thin, and you're not sure about taking on strangers. But this is an adventure, and out here, everyone is a stranger to you. Should we give them some water and leave, or should we take them with us?
Many hands make light work.
True. Of course I'll take you, you tell the couple. Thomas rushes up to shake your hand. Annie gives you a hug. They grab what few supplies they have from their wagon before you leave. You have to admit that it's nice to have company. Annie tells you that her brother Ben has been to California. He's told them of a perfect spot for panning for gold. The three of you travel west over the Sierra Nevada and into California. Thomas leads the way as you search for a small tributary of
Tributary.
tributary. I'm sorry, I've never encountered that word in my life.
It's okay. It's okay.
A small tributary of the American River. It's not too far from where John Sutter discovered gold a year and a half before. It takes a long time to find the spot, but you finally do. The three of you claim spots next to each other and get to work. Your luck is better than you could ever have imagined. Within a week, you have made more by selling your gold than you would have made in a year in Kansas. Most of the 49ers who rushed in California meet with little success. But for a few, including you, the gold rush will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams.
Yay!
Yay!
Stupid wins!
Stupid wins! Should we follow another path or read the conclusion? That's the end of our path.
That's the end of that path. Let's read the conclusion of that.
We can do another path like tomorrow.
Or we can do another path after we read the conclusion of this.
True,
one.
this was only like 11 minutes.
Yeah, so let's see the conclusion of this one, and then we'll start another.
I was kind of expecting this to take longer. The Oregon Trail changed the face of North America. Historians have estimated that during the peak of emigration, about 350,000 people followed the Oregon, California, and Mormon trails west. An estimated 20,000 of them died along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Before the 1840s, the West had been largely an unknown frontier. Most of the Europeans in the area were British and American fur traders. But as hundreds of thousands of settlers flocked west, all that changed. The population of California soared. Towns sprang up all over the state. Many of them quickly grew into cities. California became a state in 1850. Meanwhile, Oregon was growing as well. Farmers thrived there. Its population grew, and Oregon became a state in 1859. The American West was slowly being settled by pioneers. The wave of emigration wasn't good for everyone, however. The American Indians of the West paid a high price. Many were driven from their lands. Christian missionaries came west to convert the native tribes to Christianity. For many tribes, their entire way of life was wiped out within a generation or two. In time, the Oregon Trail became obsolete. In 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. It connected the two North American coasts. Travel by a covered wagon was no longer necessary. The days of the Oregon Trail were over. Evidence of the Oregon Trail still exists today. In places, the land remains scarred by deep wagon ruts. Gravestones still stand along the trail, and names and initials carved or painted onto rocks in places such as the City of Rocks in Idaho can still be seen. Even more than 150 years after the peak of travel on the trail, these artifacts remind us of the long and dangerous journey so many took in search of a better life.
There you go.
And then there's like a timeline. But we don't care about that. Okay, so we've gone to California for the gold rush.
Okay,
So the remaining two paths are brave the Oregon Trail with a young family, or guide a wagon along the train, or guide a wagon train along the trail.
let's go with the wagon trail.
All right. On horseback, you look out over several dozen wagons. Settlers are bustling around them. The people are headed west in search of a new life. They've hired you to be the guide. Life is changing out here in the West. Years ago, you were part of a busy fur trade, but the demand for furs has all but disappeared. Like many other mountain men, you find yourself in need of work.
Mm-hmm.
You know the country well. You've survived out here all your life. But are you ready to lead others and be their captain? You lead your group of wagons west out of Independence, Missouri. The travelers are excited. Children run alongside the wagons. Husbands and wives sit proudly, driving their teams of mules, oxen, and workhorses. A young man approaches you. He introduces himself as John. I served a while in the army, he explains. If you need a steady rifle along the way, I'm your man. I can pick off an Indian from 100 yards. You nod, trying not to roll your eyes. The man may be a good shot, But if he thinks that your group will survive a standoff with hostile Indians, he's a fool.
Yeah.
You've heard the stories about Indian attacks, but you've lived on the frontier your whole life. You've dealt with many of the native people along the trail. Indian attacks are not high on your list of worries. As the days and miles pass, the enthusiasm of the group dips. The sun is hot and the trail is hard. Then come the rains. It pours for days at a time. The trail becomes a muddy mess. It's no trouble for your horse, but the wagons can barely move. One dreary morning, you hear it snap! One of the wagons breaks an axle. The wheel comes off and cracks in half. Some families carry a spare wheel, but not this one, and no one is eager to give up a spare. The wagon belongs to a young couple, Jeb and Martha. You're their guide, but you're not responsible for maintaining their wagon. They have a horse. You could order them to ride back into Independence on their own, or you could ask another family to take them on. Should we leave the couple or ask another family to take them on?
We're a wagon train.
Yeah.
More wagons we can circle when we need to, the better.
So ask another family to take them? Their wagon broke.
Oh, their wagon broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can go somewhere.
So leave them?
Ask somebody else to take them.
Okay. You sigh. You can't just leave them here.
They might
Can
not.
anyone take them? You ask. You're lucky. John volunteers. I have room in my wagon. Load up what you can, he tells the couple. Let's keep moving. By afternoon, you're back on the move, one wagon short. A few days later, a young boy shouts from atop his family's wagon, "Buffalo!" He's right.
Yummy.
A huge herd grazes in the distance.
Yummy.
John rides alongside you on his mare. What do you think? Should we get us a buffalo?
Well, yeah, they're delicious.
You know he's excited at the prospect of a hunt, but hunting buffalo is dangerous. They are big, powerful beasts, and a gunshot could cause the herd to stampede. If they headed toward the wagons, it could be disaster.
That is true.
So should we go hunting or play it safe?
The thing is, we're gonna need food,
Yeah,
and one buffalo could feed the whole wagon train for like a good portion of the trip.
yeah,
Plus the fur and the bones.
yeah.
Okay, but we can't let John.
I don't know if we have a choice in who gets to hunt.
Yeah, well, there's that. Okay, yeah, we need the food.
All right, let's go hunting. 4 of you head out hunting. You and John lead the way. James and Abraham, a father and his teenage son, follow. The herd is massive. It stretches out across the prairie. The buffalo is so thick that the landscape looks black in places. Careful now, you whisper as you approach the herd. The 4 of you crawl up a small rise on the prairie, keeping yourselves hidden. You load your rifles. All 3 of you take aim at a large cow on the fringe of the herd. Before you can fire, something spooks the herd. A sound like thunder rises up as it starts to move.
Oh, shit.
James and Abraham try to rush back to the wagons. You shout out a warning and grab for John, but he's already aiming. Bang! His rifle shot rings out over the sound of the herd.
Dumbass.
The cow lurches and falls to the ground. The herd is on the move, but you're in luck. They're running away from the sound
Oh, thank God.
and away from the wagons. A few minutes later, they're far in the distance. You and John go to claim his kill. You butcher the meat and bring the best cuts back to the wagons. The women will prepare some of it right away. They will dry the rest. Your food problems are solved.
There you go.
You slowly make your way across the plains. In time, you pass Chimney Rock, a major landmark on your trail. You're about to leave the plains and enter mountain country.
Yep.
The thought of the meat a buffalo would provide is tempting, but you don't want to take the risk. We'll keep moving, you say. I don't want to be caught in the middle of a stampede. You can see the disappointment in John's eyes, but he doesn't question your judgment. You swing right around the great herd and continue on your way. The little wagon train continues on the trail, moving along the Missouri River. The land has few trees, so you collect buffalo chips to fuel your fires.
Mm-hmm.
12-year-old Will laughs at the idea of burning buffalo droppings, but you have a few other options.
Yep.
Trouble begins as you move out of the prairie into mountain land. Fire consumes much of the food in one wagon. A barrel of flour becomes soaked and ruined. The others share their food, but as supplies grow low, tensions rise. Within a week, only a handful of settlers have much food left at all. You're still days away from Fort Laramie. We can't continue to feed everyone, says a man named Charles. I fear for my family's safety. There are 5 families with enough food for the trip. We want to continue on alone. Are you with us? Should we go with a small group that has enough food or stay with the main group?
Who hired us?
Huh?
Who hired us?
No one. We're just here.
Realistically, we should be staying with the group with the food.
All right.
John needs to go. Bye-bye.
You were hired to lead people to Oregon, but they're not paying you enough to die out here. You'll stick with the group that has the best chance of making it to Oregon. We can't tell anyone about our plan, you say. Desperate men might choose to fight. Early the next morning, the 5 wagons begin to move before the others know what's happening. You half expect them to chase you, but they don't seem to have the energy, and so you're back on the trail. You now have a much better chance to make it to your destination. You're behind schedule, so you push hard into the mountain country. Heavy rains have swollen the region's many rivers. Ferries help the settlers cross the biggest ones, such as the Snake River, but the smaller rivers present a problem. They're running deeper and faster than usual, and there are no ferries to help you cross.
Well, this is gonna be fun.
Late one afternoon, your group approaches such a river. You know it from your fur trading days. It's normally just a few feet deep, but now it rushes along wider and deeper than you've ever seen it. Can we cross here? Asked Will. It's going to be dark soon. We'd better get started now. He's right. You'd like to scout the river a bit before bringing your people across, but the sun is getting low in the sky, and you notice dark clouds in the west. Maybe it would be better to cross before rain can fall and make the river deeper still. Should we cross now or scout the river and make camp?
The smart thing to do is to scout the river and make camp.
Mm-hmm.
So of course we're gonna cross.
Yeah. You think you know this river, but you've never crossed it when it was this high. We'd better make camp, you say. I'll scout the river and see if we can cross here. As the settlers, I think I misclicked.
That's okay.
As the settlers make camp, you lead your horse into the river. It's deep, but not too deep. You should be able to make it across. But that night a storm brings heavy rain. As you wake, everything is drenched. The emigrants are cold and miserable. But you tell them the good news. You can cross here. You lead the way on the back of your trusty stallion. But as you near the middle, you realize that the current is much stronger than it was last night, and the water is deeper. In an instant, the powerful current sweeps your horse off its feet. You struggle to keep your head above the freezing water. You hear screams behind you, but there's nothing you can do to help anyone.
Yep.
Frantically, you try to swim toward shore, but the current is too strong. Your clothes are drenched and the weight is pulling you under. You fight with all the energy you have, but it's not enough. Your head slips beneath the churning surface. You didn't account for all that rainfall rushing down the riverbed. It was a mistake that has cost you your life.
I told you we're gonna die. We died.
Yep. Okay, let's scout the river, make camp.
Mm-hmm. No, we did.
Oh, we did that.
Yeah, I said we were just gonna forge through.
Yeah. Okay, let's cross now then.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like more rain tonight, you say. I think we'd better cross now. I know this river. It shouldn't be too deep even now. You'll float the wagons across. Everyone knows what to do by this time. One by one, they move their wagons to the edge of the river. They remove their wheels and unhitch their teams of mules and oxen, so the animals can swim across on their own. The wagons aren't watertight, but they're close enough for this short trip. You lead the way. Your horse, a tall stallion, has done this 100 times. He doesn't shy away as you guide him to the water. The water comes up to the stallion's neck, but no deeper. You emerge safely on the other side and help the others safely up the steep bank. We did it, shouts Will. A few weeks later, you enter Oregon country. So much land with no one living on it, says John. You shake your head. There's no point reminding him that people have been living here for thousands of years. It's a time for celebration, not argument. You've successfully guided your party to Oregon. Your days of fur trading may be over, but your life as a guide along the Oregon Trail has just begun.
Ta-da!
Well, there's only one path left, so we might as well make it into a single stream book.
Okay.
Let's follow another path. So we're going to brave the Oregon Trail with a young family. It started out as a great adventure. You were traveling west on the Oregon Trail with your parents, twin brother, and little sister. After years of struggling to get by in Missouri, your parents decided your family would start a new life out west. But the adventure had turned into a nightmare. It started when your father got very sick. Your mother soon followed. It was smallpox. The others in your wagon train couldn't afford to stop. They didn't want to risk catching the disease. And they also needed to reach Oregon before winter. You decided to stop your wagon on the plains of Nebraska and watched as the train continued west without you. You did all you could to nurse your parents back to health, but your mother died 5 days ago. Your father followed yesterday. You buried them both along the trail and marked their grave with a cross made of sticks. Now the three of you are alone. We have to turn around, says 10-year-old Annabelle, her face streaked with tears. Your brother Lucas sits with his head in his hands. Your father's rifle lies beside him. There's nowhere for us to go back to, he says with a sigh. We sold everything we own. But it's so far, Annabelle says. How can we do it alone? You wipe your hands on your apron. Lucas is right, you tell her. Lucas and I are 17. We'll be 18 by the time we make it to Oregon. That's old enough to stake a claim and start a life. We have to go now, Lucas says. He stands and begins to hitch your mules to the wagon. We're already almost 2 weeks behind the wagon train. We haven't seen another wagon for days. If we don't go now, we won't make it before winter. There's another reason to hurry. When you left Missouri, you thought you had enough food and supplies. You have a good team of mules to pull your wagon as well as your father's reliable mare. You have pots, tools, fishing gear, and 2 good rifles. You left with water casks, flour, bacon, dried beef, sugar, and salt. But over time, your food stores have dwindled. You ate too much early in your journey and lost some food to spoilage. Even if you leave now, you're not sure you'll have enough. Annabelle looks worried. Look, you tell her, we just have to follow the trail right along Plate River, and we'll be to Fort Bridger before you know it. The trail isn't hard to follow. The prairie grasses are beaten down to bare dirt in places. But that also creates a problem. Your mules need grass to eat, so does the mare. There isn't enough on the trail. Lucas suggests turning to the north in search of better grazing land, but you worry about leaving the main trail. Should we search for the grazing land or stay on the main trail?
I gotta stay on the main trail. There will be grazing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna die.
We're gonna die.
I'm gonna die.
It takes half the day, but you find the grass that the mules and horse need. You unhitch the team and let them graze. While they eat, you fix a light meal of bread and bacon. Lucas takes the rifle and heads off in search of game. As your supper cooks, you hear the sound of approaching horses, but it's not Lucas. You gasp as you peer around the wagon and see 3 Indians riding toward you. Every settler on the Oregon Trail has heard frightening stories about Indians. Will they attack? Will they steal your supplies? You wish Lucas were here. Get in the wagon, you shout at Annabelle. You look back at the wagon. Your other rifle sits in there. Lucas keeps it loaded and you know how to shoot it, but you have no idea how to reload. Should we greet them and hope they're friendly, or should we shoot at them?
Greet them and hope they're friendly at this point, because you only have the 1 bullet.
The idea of firing at these Indians is stupid. You don't know that they're unfriendly, and if they are, 1 shot isn't likely to scare them away. You take a deep breath and step around to the front of the wagon. Hello, you shout. The Indians stop about 50 feet from the wagon. They approach carefully. You see rifles strapped to their backs, but they have no move for the weapons. What appears to be the oldest Indian gets off his horse. He holds his hands out in front of him as he walks up to you. He walks past you, sticking his head inside the wagon. Does he mean to rob you? Annabelle rushes out, frightened. A few moments later, the Indian follows. He holds her spare rifle. He shouts something to one of the other Indians. The other man dismounts and pulls something from a saddlebag. It's a huge bundle of dried meat. Buffalo, you guess. The eldest Indian gestures at the meat, then at the gun. He wants to trade. You don't want to part with the gun, but you need meat. And you don't feel like you're in a very good place to negotiate. So you nod your head and take the meat. The elder Indian smiles, your rifle in his hands, and mounts his horse. Within a few minutes, they're gone. Lucas comes back from hunting empty handed. Annabelle excitedly tells him about your encounter. Well, at least it was the old rifle. It never shot straight anyway, Lucas says. There must be 20 pounds of dried buffalo here. We'll be glad to have it. I guess it could have gone a lot worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Indian meat don't taste good.
Yeah. You smile as the wagon rumbles over the rough trail. The days are long and hard, but you're making progress. You reach Fort Bridger. It's just a small trading post, but it's good to see other people. The trail has been getting lonely. Lucas spends what little money you have on food. You're loading up your wagon and getting ready to head out as an old fur trader approaches. Hello there, he says. My name's George. Late to be heading out on the trail. Lucas says, We know, but we're making good time. Mules are much faster than oxen. Party came through a few months back, said George, headed to California. They said they were taking the Hastings cut off to make better time, headed out southwest out there. Lucas smiles, shakes George's hand, and thanks him for the tip. What do you think? He asks. Time is becoming a problem, but do you dare change routes now? Should we stay on the Oregon Trail or take the Hastings cut off?
Stay the course.
I think we should stick to the Oregon Trail, you say. Lucas agrees. You've come this far, you're not changing course now. As you travel west, you notice more trees. As the days grow shorter, the flat ground gives way to hills and deep valleys. The grazing is better for the animals. They're regaining strength. It's fall when you reach Fort Boise near the Snake River. It's not a military fort, but it reminds you of one. Annabelle marvels at the fort's big brick walls. At the fort, a young, dark-skinned man helps you with your animals. He smiles at Annabelle and introduces himself as Kai. Then the fort's owner, Francois Payette, greets you. Late in the year to be getting wagons through here, he says. Haven't seen others in more than a week. Is he an Indian? Annabelle blurts out, pointing at the young man tending to your animals. Before you can shush her, Payette laughs. No, he's from the Sandwich Islands. Some folks call them Hawaii. Most of my workers are from the islands. I find that they're good workers and easy to get along with. You have Indian trouble here? Lucas asked, glancing back toward the stockades. Oh, the Shoshone don't cause too much trouble, Payette says. He speaks only to Lucas, ignoring you and Annabelle, but they're not exactly friendly either. Best to be safe, Payette continues. Speaking of which, it's awfully late in the year to be heading back on the trail. You don't want to get caught in the first snows. You look like a strong lad. Can I interest you in wintering here? I'll put you to work in exchange for a roof over your head and food on your table. We can find some work for the girls as well. You can tell Lucas thinks it's a good idea, but you're itching to find your new home. Should we keep going or winter at Fort Boise?
I don't trust him.
Yeah, neither do I. We've come so far, you say. I can't imagine stopping now. Lucas trades some of your remaining ammunition for food. Then you hitch up the mules and head back out on the trail. Less than a week later, the wind begins to howl out north. A flurry of snowflakes turns into a full-blown blizzard. You can't go anywhere in this weather. Lucas builds a fire to keep you warm, but you still shiver through the night. It's another day before you can move again. The trail is wet and slick. You barely seem to be moving. We should turn around, says Annabelle. Mr. Payette will keep us safe through the winter. You look at Lucas, you can tell he agrees. Should we keep going or turn around and return to Fort Poison?
Keep going. I'm not turning around to that. I'm not going back to that fort.
I'm not going back, you say with a scowl. Lucas sighs, but he doesn't argue. Your progress is slow. The days grow colder. Annabelle develops a terrible cough. You have no medicine. All you can do is try to keep her warm, but even that's difficult. After weeks of travel, you reach a lush valley inside Oregon country. Lucas is ready to stop. There's good land right here, he argues. We don't have to go all the way to Oregon City. We need to claim a spot and get started on a shelter for the winter. Should we make our home here or continue to Oregon City?
What do you think?
I mean, we're here.
Okay.
And given the conditions, I'm not sure we're going to make it much farther.
Okay. Well, then, there you go.
Let's make our home here.
At least think about
Lucas is right. You'd always imagine riding triumphantly into Oregon City, but that's not the way it's going to happen. Annabelle is very sick. You need to get her to a real shelter before it gets even colder. Surviving this winter is going to be very difficult. I agree, you say. Who cares whether you get to Oregon City? This trip was about getting a new home and you found one. Now it's time for the real work to begin. All right, we basically finished this book.
There you go.
Admittedly, we didn't get all the bad endings, but do we really need to?
No, I did.
I'm just glad we didn't die of dysentery.
Back when the computer game came out, I got dysentery 9,423 times.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
All right. Well, that was Oregon Trail. The same people that did this book also did one for Pirates. I might buy that one because this was a good book. This is a good one. I might buy the Pirates one, and we can do that one at a later date.
Cool. That'd be fun.
So yeah, there you go. Oregon Trail.
Woohoo!
Woo! We survived the Oregon Trail 3 times.
I've never made it to the Oregon Trail any time.
I mean, to be fair,
Months.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, this is a lot shorter than the MS-DOS game.
Oh God, yeah. Because you had to.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, there you go. We survived the Oregon Trail 3 times. All right. Well,
Pictures.
that's gonna do it for this stream. I will see you guys at a later date.
Bye bye, everybody. Stay safe.